So my first question for you is, what is your opinion on the native tribes such as the Inuit who live up in Alaska who don't have easy access to these fresh produce that you're wanting them to eat and instead rely on the animals they hunt?
Yeah, well, the issue of what we do to animals is an issue of necessity. This question of veganism comes down to the options and choices that we have. So there are obviously people in the world who don't have the availability or the access to be plant-based or to be vegan, who are maybe in tribes and in indigenous communities where they don't have the access that you and I have, where we live with the means that we have. And so as a consequence of that, the morality of that situation is very different because they hunt animals and eat animals out of necessity. But the point of me being here with the banner about why aren't you vegan yet is to draw on the fact that it's about you and I and the situation that we have and the means that we have, which is why it becomes a moral issue for us.
What we carry on is, we get the support. The majority of the British public are behind us. And, I was getting maybe £4 a kilo last 2 years ago. We're up to £6 and £7 a kilo for lamb. The demand's out there. Everybody's shouting. Everybody's shouting for it. Everybody's shouting for it. Everybody's shouting for it because they know it's sustainable. It's really healthy for you. It's full of top quality protein. It's full of top quality protein. It's full of top quality protein, nutrition, all the vitamins you want, all the vitamins you want, all the vitamins you want. So, I'm not worried one iota about Joey and his little gang, to be honest with you.
Today I welcome Dr. Matthew Nagra and Tucker Goodrich for a conversation or debate on seed oils, specifically omega-6 rich seed oils. So it's been agreed that this will be an open conversational style debate. We've also set aside 5 minutes each for opening statements. 5 minutes each for opening statements. Well, let's move into the opening statements.
Now, this is after they inappropriately excluded the largest trial, which showed harm. That's the Minnesota coronary experiment.
Tucker,
Only one study.
I might just interject to let you know it's nearly at 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I've got a timer in front of me. Only one study lowered linoleic acid and
Tucker,
only one study.
I might just interject to let you know it's nearly at 5 minutes.
Yes,
It's nearly at 5 minutes.
today oxidized LDL is
Tucker.
only. That is it.
Oh, well, let me put it like this, right? If I had a dog treat on a hook and I waited for a dog to come and I waited for him to eat the treat and I hooked him in the face and then I drowned him in the bucket, right? And then I gutted the dog and I made sushi for you, would you eat it?
I don't want sushi.
What do you eat, fish and chips? Yeah. All right, I made dog and chips for you.
All right, so do you mind just repeating the claim?
Yeah, so the proposition that was clarified was all else equal, any diet consisting of less than 20% meat will not be likely to yield maximum longevity to a greater degree than a diet of greater than 80% meat. And you agreed that this is a scientific hypothesis. So given that it's a scientific hypothesis, I then asked, what's the evidence?
Yeah, well, meat, there was a recent 2020 study showing meat is associated with longevity.
Right, so are you referring to that cross-sectional study that had like 100 and something countries in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just like an ecological association. So I have an alternative hypothesis. Meat is a correlate for affluence, and people have more longevity in affluent countries. So what's the argument that this evidence is more expected on your hypothesis than my hypothesis?
That's an interesting idea.
And I have a banner that says, "Give me your best argument for not being vegan."
Circle of life.
Yeah.
Have a great life, my friend. Thank you. Today I'm at UC Berkeley and I have a banner that says, "Why aren't you vegan yet?" You very kindly sat down to have a conversation with me. So I'm interested, what are your thoughts on veganism and why aren't you vegan yet?
I need the protein.
All the best.
Joey, I'm going to let you come in now. Are you worried about the impact that encouraging the British people to get off meat would actually have on farmers and actually some of the poorest people in society that would have to potentially go for more expensive vegan-friendly products?
Listen, you're talking about banning the promotion of cheap meat, and this Gareth guy's got one of these small holding farms where, it doesn't represent the majority of farming in the UK anyway. Of the billion chickens
that are slaughtered here every year in this country, 95% of them are factory farmed. And over the last 16 weeks, none of them have been let out because of bird flu. So you're talking about factory farmed animals predominantly. Over 90% of the pigs here are factory farmed, and they're killed in gas chambers, one of the cruelest ways to die. And no animal welfare organization denies that. So Gareth represents he called us 3 to 5%. Gareth actually represents a small percentage of what the meat that's actually eaten. And if you're worried about expensive, then this grass-fed, small-holding, free-range, unaccessible meat is one of the most expensive foods you can basically buy. And also, the cheapest foods in the supermarket, the rice, the beans, the oats, the lentils, are some of the cheapest, some of the cheapest. And you're laughing there. Do you think gas chambers are funny, Garth?
The additional question, the underlying question, is the one that's concerning people, which is, should he be allowed to continue to play football for West Ham after what he's done? And my view, I have to say this, despite I'm sure I'll get a barrage of abuse, is I think he should be allowed because his footballing career is separate from what he has done, possibly criminally, in his private life, in his house.
But most crimes are committed in people's private lives, and so that shouldn't be a reason to allow people's professional careers to continue.
But what would you need to see to change your view on this topic?
I would like to see some... I would like to see some evidence.
Like any evidence? Like any evidence? Like any evidence?
We've got a lot of epidemiological data. A lot of it's based on really poor evidence, and a lot of it's not evidence at all.
What I want to point out, and if I can just share my screen here, what I want to point out is that we have multiple analyses actually looking at the concordance rate between epidemiology and randomized controlled trial data. So if it is the case that nutritional epidemiology is completely bunk, doesn't reflect or it doesn't actually translate to outcomes whatsoever, but we have this comparison of over 950 randomized controlled trials, over 750 cohorts, assessing 97 diet disease outcomes, or if we limit to meta-analyses, 83 diet disease outcomes, and they're concordant in 69% of the cases. Clearly, it's right a lot more often than it's wrong. And similarly,
no, what that shows us is that it's always wrong.
I'm just kind of like failing to see the double standard between plants and animals now.
Okay, so let's say you have two choices. One is to cut the throat of a pig, and one is to cut the stalk of a broccoli.
Okay.
Is there a moral difference between those two things?
I am killing a living thing.
So is there a moral difference between those two things? No. So what about killing a human and cutting the stalk of a broccoli?
Now that's two very different things.
Why?
Killing, now the reason is because I will not devour the human after that. That means I am killing simply for the act of killing, which is very wrong. That means I'm a murderer at that point. Here I am killing to consume its like to cook, to provide, nutrition to other people who will eat with me.
But you could cannibalize.
How do we look at the Harvard study, the Harvard carnivore study, where everyone who went on it got incredibly good results?
They weren't incredibly good results. I saw those results. A lot of people don't know how to interpret that table. I think it's table 4 in the paper. They include outside the brackets the actual the unpaired data, and they include in the brackets paired data, and it looks like mean and standard deviation the way it's normally represented in tables, but that's not actually the way it's represented. And if you look at the paired data, they actually did worse.
They did worse.
Yeah, they did worse on a number of metrics. Particularly coronary artery calcification. There's a non-significant increase in coronary artery calcification.
The majority of the animals in this country are outside, mate. They're outside.
No, they're not. The chickens are... Where do the chickens live, mate? They haven't been outside for 16 weeks because of bird flu, and 95% of them are factory farmed. These aren't even my stats. Look them up yourself. Over 800 mega-style US farms in the UK. Over 800. So you're telling me that all of these are out on grass? You're part of the problem, see? You're the one who's propagating these humane lies to the public. They go in the supermarket and they think it's all green grass and pastures. I investigate these farms. I do it all the time. I'm in there seeing the chickens dying on their faces. They go into gas chambers. You think it's funny? Pigs die in gas chambers, 86% of them. That's a DEFRA stat, and they suffer in these gas chambers to death. And you're laughing because you think it's funny. How would you like to trade places with these animals, Gareth?
Hey, Cameron.
Good to meet
Pleasure
you.
to meet you,
Thanks so much, Ed.
Yeah, I thought,
Thanks for having me.
my pleasure. Thanks for taking the time to sit with me. As you are well aware, there is a banner in front of us, and the banner says veganism is a moral obligation. What do you think about that statement?
In the wild, right? Yeah. Animals are killed by other animals.
Have a great life.
You too.
Hey, Joey. Pleasure to meet you. My name's Ed. And as you know, there's a banner on the front of this table, and it says veganism is a moral obligation. You've been listening to some of my other conversations, but what do you think about that statement yourself?
I like eating meat.
All right. Thank you so much for a great conversation, Joey. Have a great time. I really appreciate it.
So how far should he have to go? What if the cat is fine?
Hopefully the cat is, but you can hurt a human and the human ends up all right, but that doesn't make it justified or doesn't mean there shouldn't be punishment. So I just wonder, how far does he have to go to warrant a punishment that would be more in line with what I believe, in your eyes?
I haven't thought about that. I only saw the video, and it was it was a horrible thing he did, but the cat at the end of it did not look that much the worse for wear. But I think I see the point you're making. You're right, as you say, it's a slippery slope, but do we have a zero tolerance of any bad treatment of any pet in any house? For example, I'll tell you one example. My dog got a chocolate bar in her mouth. If she had eaten the chocolate bar, she could have had to have her stomach pumped. So in order to get the chocolate bar out of her mouth, I had to open her jaws and literally move her with my foot. Yes, I had to kick her in order to get the chocolate bar out. Now, what would you say to me about that?
But you did that in her best interest because it was for her health and survival.
Yes, I did, but I did have to kick her at the same time.
Of course, but overall it was a beneficial and net positive for your dog because without you doing that, she would have suffered more.
I can show you, if you want to look, I have the table or the figures here in the tables for intake in that trial, if it's easier for me to do that.
Yes, and that's a confounded study with ALA
but it's not.
Intake well.
It's not, because the debate is on seed oils. These seed oils that they used, soybean, cottonseed, corn, sunflower, they are the seed oils that we're talking about. If you're saying that those seed oils are confounded by ALA, that they produce a beneficial effect, then you would have to accept that
corn oil has virtually no seed oil. It depends on which seed oil you're looking at.
Corn oil has virtually no seed oil. It depends on which seed oil you're looking at.
Now, human RCTs on fats and cardiovascular disease, there are actually only 3 that specifically look at an increase in linoleic acid. All 3 of them showed harm. Corn oil has virtually no seed oil. It depends on which seed oil you're looking at. We agreed to talk about high linoleic acid seed oils. Corn oil has virtually no seed oil. It depends on which seed oil you're looking at. We agreed to talk about high linoleic acid seed oils. We agreed to talk about high linoleic acid seed oils. We agreed to talk about high linoleic acid seed oils.
But people should have a choice. But at the same time, because people get to choose what they get to eat, the big cost on the NHS.
Yes, that's the important.
The animals deserve a choice. That's what the animals deserve, a choice not to go into a slaughterhouse to have their head cut off for a sandwich. That is disgusting. And we're talking about 2022. We're still cutting off little lambs' heads for a steak or a lamb chop. Like, what is this? This is not civil.
Opposed to what though, Joey? What are we supposed to eat instead? What would you like us to actually get our protein from?
Well, very good question, mate. I appreciate that. I've been vegan nearly 10 years, and I eat whole grains, beans, legumes, fruits and vegetables, local fruits and vegetables. There's no problem getting all of the nutrients you need.
Hi, James. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Ed, and you very kindly sat down, so I appreciate it very much. And I have a banner that says veganism is a moral obligation. What do you think about that statement?
I don't eat a lot of meat anyway.
Okay, cool, man.
Yeah, that's accurate. It's good talking to you, Ed.
Likewise, James. Have a great day. Yep. Appreciate it. All the best.
Like, if you're going to dismiss epidemiology when I'm making my claim about meat being associated with longevity, how are you going to say that your epidemiology is more valid than what I cited?
Because it has higher internal validity. You're referring to cross-sectional studies. I'm referring to prospective cohort studies when I talk about epidemiology.
Well, wouldn't I mean, the health user bias still would be at play, as would the
Can you define
affluence thing.
Just humor me here, because a lot of people use this term and don't actually understand what it means. Can you recreate for me what the healthy user bias means?
The people who engage in one activity that might not be so healthy also do other things that have been proven to be healthy. So, for example, eating plants. People who eat lots of vegetables are more likely to get more sunlight and like probably higher socioeconomic status. They're probably drinking better water. Like they're probably, I don't know, like there's a whole host of things.
I can tell you right now, that's not the healthy user bias. That's not what that means. The healthy user bias is a type of selection bias whereby a certain demographic of people are more likely to participate in research as opposed to another demographic of people. That's what the healthy user bias is. What you are actually describing right there is something called multicollinearity.
Yeah, I mean, like,
humans first. We need to focus on getting these undocumented immigrants, one, that, making them welcome in this country, giving them fair pay, giving them fair rights, all of these things, making them not fear being deported, because then once you get their support, they'll be much more likely to help us in reducing the harming of animals. They'll be able to help us, say, to go on strike against these slaughter facilities. It's all about how you go about things. Yes.
We can do both at the same time, though, is the argument I'd make.
If you kill them in a humane way where they don't feel pain, in a halal way.
How do they kill animals halal?
They kill them without pain.
How describe the process?
I could not tell you specifically because I'm not Muslim.
But you can tell me that they die without pain, but you can't tell me how they're killed.
Yes, because I have Muslim friends and I ask them, I'm like, what does halal mean? They say basically they're killed in a very specific way where they, as less pain as possible.
Can I tell you how they're killed? They have their throats cut, but they're not rendered unconscious. So they're conscious and they have their throats cut.
Is that how they're killed in the halal way?
Yeah. Kosher and halal, that's what it means.
But, okay, so, again...
Do you think that sounds compassionate?
It's more compassionate than other ways of killing them.
It is, but is it more compassionate than not killing them?
They're gonna...
We need our livestock, we need our manure more than ever to go forward, to grow our vegetables, to grow our salads, to grow our crops.
Do you need slaughterhouses?
He doesn't understand this. He has to start to listen to the people that work in the land and that are feeding him every single day. Because that's what farmers are doing. We're feeding you, Joey.
You're killing animals against their will.
Please, last word to you.
Well, in Manchester here, there's a gas chamber that kills pigs and they scream. You can hear them screaming. It's aversive to them. I don't know how you justify that by saying, we need their manure. Just because you need manure for the ground doesn't mean you need to murder all those animals in slaughterhouses. I mean, you just like to avoid the slaughterhouse, and a lot of people do. People like Gareth, they propagate humane lies to the public and they get sold this cheap meat. Factory farming is disgusting in this country, just like any other country. And I'm an investigator. I see it all the time, and I see all these false advertisements, and people just got to wake up.
Dude.
Fuck off. I don't want anything to do with you. Don't ever speak to me again. You're a fucking piece of shit.
Even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who is your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude,